I strawmanning Eric? Tell me if I'm strawmanning.
No, you're not at all. No, I don't know that strawmanning is something you can only do to a position that has well-defined doctrines and beliefs and teachings. And by definition, and because we're not even, by definition, what we're talking about is philosophically so nebulous that it can't, there's nothing to straw man in essence. Now, is it possible to misrepresent an atheist personally? Certainly. But that's a personal question, not the kind of question that would gain or lose you points in an academic debate. Now, I have several conflicting thoughts about this because I had a moment. Okay, let me start out by saying that, and this will be kind of our concluding thought for this segment of our discussion. And then we're probably just going to pick it up naturally next time from this. My new favorite Protestant apologist, Gavin Ortlund. Go watch his stuff if you're looking for good apologetics. And your favorite apologist, Matt Fradd, had a discussion. And in that episode, they brought up contact. And both of them, now I'll mention that Matt and Gavin and I are all within a year of each other in age, I believe. So we all came from that same 90s optimistic age of, it wasn't the age of Aquarius, it was the age of victory. It was America's on top, Cold War's over, economy's booming, that whole thing. And atheism reflected that as much as any other cultural current did. Gavin and Matt, as I recall, were both sentimental about Contact. They thought it was a good movie, even though, as a Protestant and Catholic apologist, they obviously had the most basic level of philosophical disagreement with pretty much everything that was in the movie that you could have. And though it's easy to overblow this point, Contact, Carl Sagan was a four horsemen of the apocalypse, as they call it, type atheist. He was ready to misrepresent and strawman himself, probably not consciously, probably just because this is really what he believed about all quote unquote religious people. And I have to use quotes for that now because we are kind of establishing that atheists can be just as religious as Christians. But there's a character in Contact who is the Christian fundamentalist, and I guess I'm just giving away the details, but it's relevant to my point, who, when the first time they try to build the machine to make contact with the aliens, he actually becomes a suicide bomber, a literal Al-Qaeda type suicide bomber. He straps a vest on his chest or something to that effect, walks into the machine and blows it up. And this guy is always presented as a raving lunatic. And so that was there, but you can ask the question, why is it that, because as far as I know, I mean, you can fill me in on Matt Fradd's backstory, but I don't think Gavin Ortlund was raised as a Christian and is a lifelong Christian. Why? I mean, I'm assuming Matt Fradd was relatively that.
He considers himself a revert, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, but not like us, not a teenage atheist or having a big atheist phase in the middle.
I think he might have considered himself an atheist at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would be even more relevant then, because that, in that case, and maybe Gavin did too, but either way, everyone that came out of that 90s victory phase, I like when you were, in one sense, it bothered me that you said that even today, even as a Christian, because I still have kind of sentimental attachment to that idea. I don't see it as worthy of mockery as much, and I'm not saying you were mocking it per se. I don't consider it, I consider it to be more of a tragedy than a comedy. Because I remember what it felt like to be in that position, to have only the presence of each other, this thing that is very real for a very brief second, and then it's gone. And that's all you have to hang on to. And and then we'll get to this more when we come to the end of our story. But everything you are, everything you've done, everything you've thought, everything you've felt, it's just gone.
Well, yeah, but I think everyone wants meaning. Everyone wants meaning, and the fact that people say the universe is meaningless shows that they're reacting against the prevailing and obvious conclusion of almost every human person who's ever drawn breath that life has meaning. Because life is a miracle. We can all agree on that. I mean, the atheist has to agree that it's a miracle even more than the Christian, because statistically, I mean, this isn't possible. This isn't statistically. Everyone will tell you this. All the atheists will tell you the universe existing and not just being like a void of kind of chaos is a miracle. The planets, it's like everything we know about modern cosmology and physics is miraculous. And finally, the emergence of life is also supremely miraculous. We're miracle on top of miracle on top of miracle. And when atheists start talking about this, they miss the obvious question. It's like, how is this possible? But then they come to these weird conclusions where it's like, well, given enough time, it happens eventually. And I just think, so given enough time is like $1 million going to appear in my living room or something. But they laugh at that, like that's silly. And that is silly because that's not possible. But the statistical probability of $1 million like spontaneously appearing in my living room out of thin air from nowhere is far, 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 far more likely than the universe existing. And I'm not even strawmanning. I'm not being a Christian polemicist. I'm just saying, objectively speaking, you have to account for the fact that, I mean, we're living bizarre, miraculous existences as human persons, and we have to reckon with that. And if you feel the need to start using religious language, I think you kind of have to tip the hat that we're not just dealing with matter in motion. And if we are dealing with matter in motion, something else is going on that desperately needs to be accounted for. And even if you shoot down Christianity, you have to answer that question within your own heart. And I wish everyone luck, even if you never come to accept the gospel, in finding a way to do that. Because I think if you don't, that's a tragedy.
Okay. And I have two immediate follow-up thoughts. I'm going to save that for next time. So we'll wrap that up for today then. And in the next program, we'll continue on with Life in the Void. And this is Eric Slay with the Penn Guy.
This is Alex Burks.
And this has been Penn Guy Podcasting.